These short documentaries about Equatorial Guinea's founding president, Francisco Macías Nguema, one of the worst dictators who ever lived. Francisco Macías Nguema was born on January 1, 1924, in Nsegayong, Rio Muni, Spanish Guinea. Macías Nguema was the son of a witch doctor who allegedly killed his younger brother. At 9, Nguema saw his father, who was a chief in his village, punched to death by a Spanish colonial administrator when he tried to negotiate for better wages for his people. His mother would then commit suicide a week later, leaving behind a young Nguema and his 10 siblings. No one had an idea that the young boy would one day become Equatorial Guinea's founding president. With Nguema as president, Equatorial Guinea witnessed one of the worst reigns full of acts of dictatorship. Nguema hated education after failing miserably. He also closed libraries, banned the word intellectual, killed teachers and former education ministers. He declared himself leader for life, keeping much of the national treasury in suitcases under his bed. He killed or either exiled an estimated 1/3 of the former Spanish colony's population of 300,000. Nguema would also ban all religious meetings. For instance, priests were forced to preach that God created Equatorial Guinea thanks to Papa Macías, and made the country's motto, "There is no other God than Macías Nguema." Nguema also prohibited all types of Western medicine, as he perceived them to be anti-African, and single-handedly appointed witch doctors to treat the sick. Finally, he banned the wearing of glasses, as they were considered to be an intellectual trait, and soon after, the wearing of shoes. When Nguema first came into office in 1968, the population of Equatorial Guinea was about 350,000 people. By the end of his presidency in 1979, over half were either dead or had escaped. Only 6 intellectuals were alive, 2 doctors and 2 technical school grads. Nguema destroyed boats, railways and mined roads out of the country to prevent people from fleeing. After turning Equatorial Guinea into a hellhole, his insanity started to threaten his own family, and on the 3rd of August 1979, he was overthrown by his nephew Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo. Teodoro would later become president. Macías Nguema was arrested, tried by a military court, sentenced to death and executed on the 29th of September 1979. Nguema's forces would eventually abandon him. The Supreme Military Council opened case on the 18th of August 1979 and began interviewing witnesses and collecting evidence against Nguema's government. A military tribunal was convened on September 24, 1979 to try Nguema and several members of his government. They faced charges including genocide, mass murder, embezzlement of funds, violation of human rights, and treason. Nguema and 6 of his defendants were sentenced to death, with Nguema being sentenced to death 101 times. With no higher court available to hear the appeals, Nguema and 6 other defendants were sentenced to death and executed by a hired Moroccan army firing squad at Black Beach Prison at 6 p.m. Oh, and legend has it that Francisco Macías Nguema smoked large quantities of bang and a local stimulant known as iboga.